All right, let's have this Nigeria this morning. Riots in Kano over trending CTC judgment by appeal court. We have not seen the document, open court judgment. More important, APC appellate court ruling remains valid. Governor Yusuf filed suit at Supreme Court, says NMPP.
The Daily Times, CTC from appeal court, Kano boils as thousands protest, police tear gas crowds, NMPP petitions NJC over redo of judgment, rallies Nigerians to speak up. That's the bold one on the front page of the Daily Times. A forex crisis. Okay, we leave that.
And leadership is looking at Kano. Parties asked to return judgment copies, and then lead story, lawyers demand merit in selection of Supreme Court justices, warn against sacrificing competence for politics, nepotism, confirm unwritten coding selection process. And there you have the picture story of the riot in Kano.
The People's Daily, also leading with the Kano Guba judgment saga, says appeal court cites clerical error in new controversy, says no change in earlier conclusion. And Chief Judge releases new posting of 23 new Federal High Court judges on page 2.
Nigerian pilot looks at refund, 12 trillion naira or be sacked. Senate worries over TAM, vows to ensure NMPCL boss Gary orders are sacked. That they spent 12 trillion naira for TAM from 2010 to date with no refinery working. Says it has records of over $592 million, 4.8 million euros, 3.4 million pounds spent from 2010 to date on TAM. Regrets that between 2010 and 2020, NMPCL spent 4.8 trillion naira as operational expenses.
All right, Nigeria faces worst economic crisis since 1960. That's credited to the Senate. That burden compounds nation's woes, Owaleke says. Inspector dies as army police fight dirty in Yola. And men were on rescue mission, says Army Commander. That's Daily Asset Stories this morning.
The Nigerian News Direct also looks at federal government targets $500 million annual revenue for cyberspace. And then it also looks at that just above the masthead, Osun judiciary workers declare indefinite strike. And also you find there Lagos graduates 4,000 from skill acquisition programs.
The New Telegraph, climate change risks. Nigeria faces $5.5 billion loss in assets. And then you have Nigeria facing worst economic crisis in history, coming from Abdullahi. He says there's need for NAS communities, FG, to work out ways to get economy back on track.
Blueprint, as protest rocks Kano over appeal court verdict, APC, NMPP differ on way out of CTC error. Lawyers familiar with clerical errors, parties legal advisor. NMPP says appellate court can't correct mistakes, seeks NJC judicial stakeholders intervention.
The Daily Trust, that's appeal court, insists on Governor Yusuf sack, admits errors in certified judgment. Protest rocks Kano. NMPP approaches Supreme Court, rejects request for CTC retrieval. And then 25 killed in Niger road crash. That's a sad one there.
And The Guardian looks at poor funding raises concern for 270 private universities. You see that total number of universities may rise to 528, among which 418 are privately owned. And then you see all the stories there. Senate laments cyber threats to digital economy, $500 million yearly loss.
Okay, the Nigerian Tribune, industrial court restrains Osun judges from taking up acting CJ's position. Then sack of Kano governor is also leading the paper this morning. Appeal court cites clerical error in CTC as youth protest in Kano, it says. And this is our last paper for review. Let's bring in our reviewer now. Simon, what will I call it now? Is it these days are confusing days for Nigerians, you know, particularly in Kano. The paper, almost all the papers are leading with this story this morning. This Nigeria says riots in Kano over trending CTC judgment by appeal court. And then we have so many riders the judges say the sack remains. It is a clerical error. Lawyers are familiar with that and all of that. I don't know what you think about all of this.
Well, what I think about is the tragedy of what the judiciary in Nigeria has become. Many Nigerians haven't dissatisfied with what was coming in from INEC. They felt going to the courts will sort out the issue. But again, in Kano, for instance, we've seen what has happened. Well, they upheld the judgment of the tribunal. When the CTC finally came up, the certified copy of the judgment, it was something very, very different. That shows you that the judiciary is not working outside of the operating system in Nigeria. The operating system in Nigeria is corruption. It's your ability to swing the system. It's your ability to
but there's a caveat to that too. The judges are saying this is a clerical error. I'm not a lawyer, and I know you are not one as well, but
yes.
What do you understand by that?
Well, I have nothing to say but to refer to what Professor Odin Kalu said, the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, the former chairman. He said it's more than a clerical error. Where you take your time to look at the CTC, the copy of the judgment, you discover that something is amiss. That there are so many things that are not adding up. And when things are not adding up, you now understand that there are certain things we don't understand. So what I'm saying that just as much as I'm not a lawyer, you don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to that much school to understand that certain things went wrong. So the appeal court may come up to say, oh, it stands. But the truth of the matter is that when you look at the judgment itself, you understand that no, certain things went wrong.
Now, the same judges that made the pronouncement did the right things, right? So is it a case of saying not saying something you don't mean, or I don't know? Because even the APC is defending this, saying that what is pronounced is the one that is better than what is written.
Now,
and this is a documentation that will live for years, even beyond what has been said.
Now, what is pronounced is less important than what we see in the certified copy of the judgment, because that is what will live. That's the fact of the matter. The APC has come up to say they have not received a copy of the CTC. Of course, you should expect them to say that. But for us, not many people listen to what the judge said. So what you need to do is that you read the certified copy of the judgment. And when you read it, there is nothing to tell you that things went straight. That is the fact of the matter. If we are to state the truth and nothing but the truth. Because we need not to play politics over these things.
All right, because you know what, I think she's making a point there, because in one of the papers it says they should return the judgment. I don't know whether they are returning it to correct it, or returning it to review it, or returning it to rejudge it in inverted commas.
Yeah.
So I think the issue here is that more of this keeps casting aspersion on the judiciary. The lack of trust broadens, and I think for a lot of Nigerians, this is where the issue is. It's not even just in the anomalies of the outcome of this case. It is in its effect in the psyche, on the psyche of Nigerians, and I don't know if you want to weigh in on that.
Well, the truth of the matter is that you don't develop your democracy by relying on the judiciary to determine who wins an election. If you do that, there will be a problem, especially in Nigeria, where we all believe, rightly or wrongly, that somewhere someone is trying to jing the system, is trying to swing the system to ensure that his interest is protected. So for us, there is need for the judiciary to come out unambiguously on issue. When judgment are subjected to various interpretation, it becomes a problem. So we need, as a matter of fact, to make our judiciary to stand upright. I say this in the context of what is happening in leadership. They say lawyers demand merit in selection of Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that, well, there is unwritten code that every geopolitical zone should have 3 candidates. There is an unwritten code. But now we have 2 candidates from Lagos State. So some people are kicking against it. But the truth of the matter is that Where has that taken us to? Let's look at the yesterday verdict where a court nullified the appointment of Dankaka and Bello as chairman and secretary of the Federal Character Commission. Because you are not supposed to have the same people from the North Central Zone. Now that all tells you that our political elite simply don't care about the laws. They don't care about the law. All what they are interested in is to care about what they believe will defend their interests.
Does ignorance have a place here? Is it that they are not aware, or they don't just want to?
No,
obey?
it's not that they are not aware, but they've taken Nigerians for a ride. You see, there is this thing about the Nigerian ruling elites. They simply believe that whatever they will do, all what people will do is to make noise. After they make noise for 1 or 2 weeks, everything dies down and nothing happens. So that's the reason. So they can take you for a ride. They can do what they want to do. Because they need to have somebody that is there to ensure they protect their own interests. Let me tell you, the appointment of Federal High Court judges, let me tell you, most of them, many of them, for you to get there, it's a different process. It's not about merit. And for you to have a system that stands for justice, you should be able to open the door that everyone will be able to go into that door, through that door, and be judged. Not according to the color of his skin or where he's coming from, but according to competence. But in the Nigerian system, it's not competence. It is who you know. That's the truth of the matter. It is who you know. If you don't know anybody, forget about it. You may get 100%, nobody gives a damn. But once you have somebody that can talk to somebody, somebody that will talk to somebody, everything falls in line.
Okay, so let's look at how we tie this to selection of Supreme Court justices, which is also one of the lead story. One of the papers looked at lawyers demand merit in selection of Supreme Court justices, one against sacrificing competence for politics, nepotism, confirm unwritten code in selection process. And that's what you're seeing in front of the Leadership newspaper. And, you know, then you tie to what we're seeing as outcomes in the court, whether it will get better with this new selection or it will get worse.
Well, the fact of the matter is that as the system stands now, nothing seems to change. Nothing have changed. And as it stands now, nothing seems to change. I want to bring the idea of Nigerians rising up to do what is needful. What is needful is to demand for justice, is to demand for fair play, is to demand for equity. Equity is key. But in the Nigerian system, we shout equity, we shout justice, but the truth of the matter is that we are far away from it. We don't believe in equity. We don't believe in justice. We only believe in the enthronement of one ethnic group over the other. The three major languages will always tell you they are the majority. And even in their talk, you see that psychology that, oh, we are the big major tribes, so we must have our way. So in Africa, when Obasanjo said democracy is not working in Africa, in Nigeria we bring at it, ethnicity comes to play. Because why? People who think they are more in number, they believe that they must have their way. And when they have their way, it's to muzzle other smaller groups. And in democracy, it's about the voice of the minority being heard and being taken along. But in Nigeria, no, it is what we want. If you like it or not, follow us, or you are out of the game. So the truth of the matter is that not much, we shouldn't expect too much from the selection of these Supreme Court justices. Because those that have made our system to be what they are still in charge. And I don't think they are willing as of now to do things differently. If you look at the members of the Federal High Court judges, you will discover the names of people that were there. So they have maybe their parents, they have their relations, they have in high places. So not much. You see, the problem with Nigeria is that we sit down and expect that things will change when we just sit down. No, we have to come out with a collective action to demand for justice, to demand for truth, to demand for equity. But we don't have that absence. We have that absence, and it's only the media that comes up and scream and scream and scream. But those supporting blocks that we need to have, that should support the media to ensure that things are done right, simply keep quiet. Okay. And that is why the National Assembly will not talk until something affects the world. When they want to get something that is personal to them. And that's why the idea of the NNPCL, the 12 trillion.
Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you won't miss out any of our latest video.